Great. Thanks for that reminder, Barb. Okay. So sharing my screen. I'm sorry that it doesn't fit exactly, but you can almost see that top line. The LWVCO Housing Committee is being created to engage members across the state to take action to better Colorado's housing laws, policies, and systems in alignment with league positions. By increasing the important aspects of housing through education, the Housing Committee will be action-oriented and influence public policy and legislation at all levels through advocacy while speaking with one league voice. The LWVCO Housing Committee will coordinate education and advocacy with local leagues and other organizations. The committee may organize webinars, workshops, and presentations on major topics of interest and promote justice and equity in housing through advocacy at all levels of government. Now, this part is mandatory. The Housing Committee will be closely aligned with and will inform LWVCO's Legislative Action Committee, or LAC. While the committee may partner with the LAC on legislator outreach, committee members are not required to be lobbyists. But if we don't have this connection to the state league's LAC, then this committee is just another silo, and there's no point in that. So, but we hope that this committee is informing the LAC and vice versa. So it will also collaborate with the LWVUS Housing Reform Network of league members across the country. So at least one liaison to each of these groups will be maintained. We haven't yet appointed or found someone from the LWVUS Housing Reform Network to take part in this committee. So that is one next step we have. And probably the first part of that is figuring out who's on that committee. So while committee logistics will be determined by member consensus, LWVCO recommends a basic framework of issue area subcommittees with co-chairs wherever possible. Joe.
Oh, I was just going to ask what you have up on the screen now. Could you send each of us a copy of that?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You bet. So subcommittee co-chairs will make up a leadership team to coordinate the work of the committee. So subcommittees will be created based on member interest. So our first statewide issue area task force was our climate emergency task force that came out of the LWVCO League and is now statewide. It has 6 active subcommittees talking about plastics and pollinators, and they're having presentations, and it's just awesome. So, and it's just a machine, you know, they're just going and doing their own thing. And LWVCO provides the Zoom account, a web page, and you know, general support. So I hope that this committee will go that same way. So now I would ideally like to hand it over to our 3 LAC members to talk about what's hot legislation at the minute. And then I'm hoping we can hear from you all non-LAC members who can tell us what you all are working on at your local level, and how we can combine those two and what we think our next steps might be.
Kathy, you make a good spokesman for us.
Okay, well, the LAC Housing Committee is myself and Joe and Trish. The last couple 3 years, having at the legislature has been pretty intense. been a lot of things going on, and this year is no different. This year, there was some funds from the American that were designated for housing, and they had a special task force and subpanel meeting this past summer to decide how $400 million were going to be spent for this one-time funding statewide. And those bills are recently introduced. There's 5 bills that came out of recommendations of this task force, and they're currently in committee, and maybe Trish can tell us about one of the hearings that was one of the first hearings that was today. But those are real hot. The other thing that's really hot this session is mobile home parks. There are several bills that relate to mobile home parks. And actually, thank you, Laura, for getting the stuff up on the website. If you go to the state website and look up the legislative action page, there's some information about these bills for the ARPA funds. And also there's kind of an overview of why mobile home parks are so important and why they're a real focus right now in the state, and some bills that relate specifically to mobile home parks. So so there's the Colorado's investment in affordable housing talks about the ARPA bills, and basically between them they're spending the $400 million, big money, $150 million into a revolving loan fund, $150 million into a big statewide grant fund. There's a specific one for funding mobile home parks to become resident-owned communities. There's one for sort of missing middle to shore up one of CHAFA's programs that they have for the missing middle for home ownership. And then there's an innovative housing incentive program that's trying to get some innovative manufacturing back in Colorado, things like 3D printing and modular. They've all kind of left the state, and they're trying to get them back. And you probably, I saw some shaking heads about the mobile home parks. You probably have an understanding, most of you, about why mobile home parks are so important. They're pretty much our biggest unsubsidized source of affordable housing. And large corporations are coming in with low interest loans through the feds and buying up a lot of these parks and turning them around and raising rents and displacing folks. So it's been a pretty big problem in the mobile home parks. Folks own their home, but they don't own the land underneath their home, their lot. And the lot rents have been going up and up and up. And Golden, where I live, lot rents at our biggest park are over $1,000 a month just for the piece of land underneath the home. And we have another small park that was recently bought by a corporation. They increased the rents by about 50% for most of the homeowners, and you know, it's above where a lot of the folks on disabilities there it's more than they make, more than they bring home. So we've got a real displacement issue going on there. So it's a big problem statewide. So those are really the big issues. And Joe is following a couple of things. Joe is our homelessness expert. She's following a couple of bills that relate to homelessness. If you want to speak up, Joe.
No, you're doing a beautiful job. So I've been following the mobile home park more lately than anything else. So
Okay, well, we are following in, and if you go to that same web page, there are summaries of in the bill trackers, and there's a specific
Mhm.
tab kind of in the bottom section of the page where you can click on housing and see all the housing bills that we're following. Yeah, if you just scroll, keep scrolling.
Sorry, I don't want to give anybody vertigo.
Yeah. Lots of good information on the website, so make it one of
Lots.
the things that you look at.
Look
These
at all
are,
that testimony.
yeah, these are all the testimonies that have been submitted, and then this bill trackers, there's one specifically for housing that you can look at and see what we're following and where the bills are in the process. The one big mobile home park bill is a huge bill. I mean, it's just really huge and extensive and complicated. One thing it does is it puts a cap on these lot rents so that they're, I don't know with negotiations where it's going to end up. It started at 3% maximum. Obviously, it will go up from there. So we'll see where it ends up. Probably more around the 6% range. But there's a lot of opposition based on that because it's, you know, the slippery slope for rent control the opposition sees. So we've got just, you know, the apartment association, which really doesn't have anything to do with mobile home parks, is against it, and all sorts of things. So there's probably in the next 2 to 3 weeks, I'm going to be asking for a big action alert statewide to get folks, you know, it got through its committee in the House. It will probably get through the House, but when it gets to the Senate, and especially the Senate floor, I think we're going to need a big statewide action. And Barbara had her hand up, right? Oh, okay.
I was just saying, I'm glad to see there's an action alert coming down the pike. Thanks.
Great.
So
Anytime, Kathy.
yeah, well, I think the timing will be in the Senate, but it's a big bill. It's an important bill, and that does other things. You know, some of the parks are being, you know, replaced with something else. So, you know, current laws that the folks who live there get 12 months notice that the park is changing use and they have to leave. Most of these mobile homes are not mobile. The older ones are illegal to move. And a lot of them are not structurally sound enough to move. And the ones that are newer that are movable, you know, I've heard anywhere between $5,000 and $20,000 to move them, and you have to have somewhere to move them to.
Mhm.
So really, folks are stuck. And one of the other things this bill does is to give folks some relocation. If the park does change use, it gives them some relocation expenses or fair market value for their homes. And there's a bunch of other tweaks in the laws that have been around for a few years that needed to be beefed up. Another bill that's going to be heard later this week is the Attorney General's office is going to make a fair housing unit, and they're going to start overseeing some of the housing sectors. And it includes the Mobile Home Park Act and the Mobile Home Oversight Program, as well as a couple of other things, including there was one a couple of years ago that you couldn't discriminate based on immigration status. So they're going to start, if this goes through, start enforcing sort of systemic enforcement of some of these things that are on the books that aren't being enforced. So there's
Sherry,
a lot of important
I'm sorry, Kathy, to interrupt. We've got a couple hands up, and I bet that people want to ask you questions. So sorry to interrupt you.
I was just trying to clarify what the number is on the mobile home bill that she's talking about specifically.
House Bill 1287, I think it is.
You're right.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, if you go to the website, you can find, specific information about it.
I'll put it in the chat, the link to it. I just wanted to also comment that it seems like things are so bad in the last few years. I think there's been investment in housing, and there are companies that like, what is it, Tricon, where they bought up like a third of the housing stock so that they can either rent it out or speculate and flip it for a profit. And so, I mean, all these things, it seems like people want to invest in them and they have no concern about the fact that we don't have enough affordable housing. That's all. I'm preaching to the choir, but I just think it's really dreadful that that's happening.
Yeah, totally agree with you.
One of the other bills that we are following is on the regulation for the manufacture and installing tiny homes. So that's another thing that a lower income can afford. So we're working on that one too, to make sure that the regulations go as we hope they will.
And is that currently a problem? I mean,
Well, part of the problem with tiny homes is getting the land to put them on. And NIMBY is still a very, very big thing.
Yeah,
They're all,
one of
people
the
are
big,
all for it as long as it's not in their backyard.
yeah,
okay.
totally. And one of the big things with the tiny homes is that the ones that aren't on a permanent foundation are the ones that have kind of fallen through the cracks with regulations.
Mhm.
So this beefs that up and makes them so that they have some regulation around them, and makes it consistent statewide so that perhaps they can be more widely used.
Mhm. Great. Any other questions for our lobbyists on housing bills, current housing bills?
So,
Trish, did you
Bill,
want to chime in?
I'm just going to jump in because the
Great.
one that I listened in on the hearing today is House Bill 22-1304. And it's the one that's got a big pot of money behind it. I think it was maybe 178 million. That is two grant programs. A piece of it will be handled by DOLA, but the larger amount is a grant program that will provide monies to local governments and nonprofit organizations across Colorado. And today the hearing, they had a lot of testimony, and for the most part, it was very positive and there was a lot of support for it. They did present an amendment, and I have not seen the language for that amendment yet, but I can tell you that some of the things that are being addressed in that amendment are that there be mixed types of housing included in these projects, that did not just be all one type. They're looking at the mixed AMI levels with compromise, they said, because the rural communities need a different AMI than the urban areas. So they're looking at the rural being up to 140 and the urban areas up to 80. There's clarification going on with projects that are going to address the needs of the disabled and domestic abuse survivors. The big thing that they talked a lot about is the parity in these monies being distributed to the rural and the urban, because so much of what they said has happened in the past is it seems like it's the urban Denver, Northern Colorado corridor that seems to be able to land the monies. But they did say that 50% of those monies are guaranteed to go to the rural communities, but the rural communities are going to have to apply and show all the needs. But if that's not expended out, I think they said, or applied for within a certain period of time, then those monies will be set free to go to other projects. But they are saving, they're saying 50% to the rural. And they're looking at awarding grants to the projects with the most potential, filling the greatest needs to create affordable housing stock across Colorado. The bill passed today 9-3, and it's moved to appropriations. So that
What's the
was,
fiscal note? You said it was in the 150 million?
yes, I don't,
I mean, I know that's a lot of money, but that is just gonna go in a snap and it's not gonna come anywhere close. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, Donna.
You're right. Anywhere close. I mean, that's just a few developments, so.
so am I right,
I-
Kathy, is that particular bill that amount, or is it the whole, like the 400 and some million that the housing group is getting?
No, the grant, the big grants is 150 million.
Yeah,
And, I think the intent is not to build an entire development, but either to try to go for land or infrastructure, tap fees, something that's standing in the way of building a development. So,
I'm assuming that if a developer is going to develop something, they have to apply for this grant.
oh, yeah.
yes.
No, the reason I am saying that is in Arapahoe County in particular, several of our failing malls are being talked about to be developed. And we have been lobbying, trying to get low income or affordable housing put into that. And so far it's fallen on a lot of deaf ears.
That was one of the things mentioned today too, is the purchasing of existing buildings to convert into housing. Because yeah, I know, Joe, we've got a lot of empty big buildings sitting around Loveland that I often think could be converted and utilized.
So can I just ask a question? Do you all housing authorities in the different counties? Because I'm thinking, and a lot of it comes down to the housing authorities and the kind of funding that they get in the state and the cities. So are you connected? Is the league connected authorities?
Oh, we've been working with the different elected officials and like Centennial and Littleton and that on and trying to get them converted over to our way of thinking that, hey, they need affordable housing just for their teachers, their firefighters, their policemen.
But, well, Barb,
Well, I just wanted to comment that we've been working, once these plans are already in the works and the city councils are voting on them, like Joe said, and I'm thinking, maybe you all think, because like Donna was saying, planning commissions, and some cities have, they're like planning committees, like advisory committees, all these things that do the things up front. I think maybe we're getting involved too late.
yeah, that's where observer corps need to come in.
So
And
we
just
need to do
trying
that.
get people to do observer corps, but
Yeah.
we have been working with planning and zoning commissions. But
So Jill, do you want to talk about Jeffco?
League specific or just in general?
Well, in general, I mean, the big we plus league.
What we've been working on in Jefferson County, since we're kind of unique in that we have a county that within has about 5 cities. And so the cities have housing plans. We're trying to get the county involved in housing plans. So our push has been to use some of the ARPA funds to hire a consultant to actually create a 15-year plan for Jefferson County, pull together a housing continuum task force where they can pull together people with a lot of different backgrounds, including people who live in affordable housing and people who live in mobile home parks, all the way to nonprofits, developers, the housing authorities. We have 2 housing authorities within Jefferson County, and to really get a lot of input and then to get an actual plan so that we've got a direction and sense of I think we kind of know what the need is, but how are we going to get there? Was that what you were thinking, Kathy?
Yeah, thanks.
It's
But I'd
very,
like to,
no, go ahead.
I would like to see, this has been something that a housing task force has been working on, but I would definitely like to see more league involvement. My one question is, you talk about an observer corps. Does the observer corps do anything other than observe?
The historical point of an observer corps, and anyone jump in, please, is, the league's foundational program of government watchdog, making sure that open meeting laws are followed, agendas are posted, that things are just happening as they should. If they're not, that's when the observer takes it back to the league and says, what do we do? Do we send out an action alert? Do we send a letter to the editor? Do we send a letter to the head of whatever entity isn't following the rules? Do we get state league or national involved, depending on how big the problem is? So the observer themselves doesn't typically do anything at the time.
Which is wonderful, but don't you think we need to go beyond that and have positions and write letters and present those positions and speak out?
Absolutely, absolutely. However, typically that is done as when the observer reports back to the league, and we got to figure out a way to do this in a quick fashion. We've got to be nimble about it so that it's not a 3-month process. Reports back and says, this is a problem, and gets right on the letter writing, the phone calls, whatever the remedy that is decided upon. Now, maybe the remedy is next meeting, a whole bunch of us are going to go and stand up. And that's your league's choice.
One of the things I think that housing has that maybe some of these other committees don't have is the not in my backyard issue, the NIMBY. I think that's the biggest thing statewide that stood in the way of making progress in affordable housing.
Agree, that's huge, but also just speaking from a developer's standpoint, that there's only so much funding that comes through the State Division of Housing, CHAFA, like with the tax credits and that. So when you want a portfolio or build an apartment complex, you have to pull all streams together. And so it seems like there needs on the state to be able to allocate, on the state legislative funds towards housing. Because when you look at the bottom line to money and NIMBY and, all of that, but still so I'm wondering, how does the league access Division of Housing and CHAFA, the funding streams that comes through them?
Well, we are, and we have been supporting legislation for the last 3 years that that has helped that. This year there's upping the CHAFA cap to I think it's 15 million now for their LIHTC. So we've supported the tax credit bills, and a couple of years ago they changed the way the vendor fees in the state are done. So vendor fees are going towards affordable housing. They kind of rated it for a while for reinsurance, but I think it comes back to housing soon. There was also a plan, the the deal where the state has all the unclaimed property. They have to retain a certain amount, but they have millions in unclaimed property. So housing was supposed to get a few tens of millions of that. So they have been trying to find pots of money to go for housing for the last about 3 years, whereas before there was very little. But it is increasing, and I think we just need to encourage them to do more. But we have supported all those bills.
Sherry?
I was just gonna say, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, that's fine. Well, it as a, general comment, typically state funds, if you were, say, for instance, a housing authority, you would be leveraging those funds. And so you're not exactly expecting your 15 million or your 156 million to build the project, but just like the lady indicated, it might be, and I'm sorry, I didn't remember your name, but infrastructure or purchasing the land with the help of the county. So you might bring some state funds in and so on. So that leveraged amount then makes that money much, much larger, that pot of money much larger. And then we used to convince the developers that we were good friends to them, because the people that we're serving, such as tiny homes, mobile homes, whatever mixed development situation you have, are those we're serving a different group. So the lower AMIs, the developers can't touch, they can't get there. And so that made them not NIMBY, but our pal. They wanted us to bring forward the lower income so that they could jump the hoops for bringing forward affordable housing without really having to do it.
Jill?
I was going to add, I attended a town hall on Saturday with my rep and a couple of senators, and also the senator that was putting together or working on the Colorado, or head of the Colorado Budget Committee. And they talked about the fact that when they had the ARPA funds, they had gone around to the entire state with a listening campaign, trying to figure out what people thought were the most important issues. And there were several, but housing definitely was one. And she was saying that they had not really considered doing that much with housing on a state level, that they always kind of thought of it as a local issue. But since it's such a statewide problem, they're realizing that the state needs to do something. And she also mentioned looking at policy and policy decisions. And so I think it's also more than just the money. There's also things that can be done around zoning, I'm no expert on it, but there are other things that can be done that aren't simply money that can facilitate affordable housing getting built. So I think we need to pay attention to that as well. And certainly push the state to keep them interested and involved, because I do think we need some statewide coordination as well as relying on each community to come up with their own solutions.
Yeah, it would a cohesive solution, or at least regionally, would certainly be ideal.
Now, I was just going to say that one of the problems that we have run into, not Arapahoe per se, but Douglas County is very conservative. And the county commissioners and everybody I've talked to in the housing area there is, we don't want government involvement.
I'm not sure I understand.
Oh, my watch is talking to me. But they're saying, we don't want government involvement. Our churches can take care of the problem. And even in Aurora, Habitat for Humanity was wanting to build 10 units for low income, and it had passed the city council, but then we had a new city council come in, and they've rescinded Habitat for Humanity's
Habitat for Humanity, while voting against a capping ban. I was kind of wondering, does Arapahoe Douglas have any kind of, I know that the camping ban just happened in Aurora, but does the league have any thoughts on that?
I think murdering our mayor is against the law. And that's my own personal. But as long as he's mayor, I don't see that, and he has a city council now who backs him,
Mhm.
that there's anything that the league can do. We've been talking to them, but it's hitting a blank wall now.
And that's
And
maybe,
Barbara lives in Aurora.
and that's maybe why we need to get involved earlier. Just like Donna was saying, we've got to get when that planning's being done, because maybe even though we've got people on the Aurora City Council and the mayor who are for the camping ban and for all sorts of political things, there is a city manager and there are people that are staffers that, maybe a little more sympathetic because they see it's good. I would think that businesses would be concerned when their employees can't afford to live anywhere close to where they work. To me, this is an issue that not only hurts the people, but also the economy and just a lot of sectors. We're all supposed to move to Boise, Idaho. It's the new Denver.
Mhm. I hear Arkansas.
Oh, you're here in Arkansas now.
Yeah.
Huh.
Mhm.
Please
That
refrain
was
me from going
repeated.
either way. Go ahead, Trish.
I'm sorry. That was repeated over and over today in the hearing, was the inability to hire people because they could hire great people, but they don't take the jobs because they can't afford to live in the communities. So workforce housing is huge. I mean, it's all over Colorado. It's the rural, it's the urban, yeah.
Does the league have any relationships with business organizations, or would there be a way to get some relationships with business organizations? Chambers of commerce, economic development organizations, because I do think that, as you said, that's an issue that you hear over and over again, and those people have some clout.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Sure.
Yeah, I can't answer your question, Jill, because that is kind of league by league. But it's a great idea. I think that, how many of y'all talk to your chambers of commerce? Yeah.
We do a candidate forum every couple of years with them, but that's it.
Okay.
And it's like talking to a brick wall to talk to anybody in Douglas County.
Mm-hmm.
And I live in Douglas County.
Mm-hmm.
Douglas County has a new housing director.
A new superintendent.
Well, yeah, that's another topic. But I know Diane Leavesley, she just left Douglas County Housing Authority. So there's somebody in her position. Maybe we need to contact them. I know
Yeah.
Craig Aurora, so I could sort of talk to him.
And we need to get
I just think
together on
we have to
Douglas.
leverage the housing authorities because they're playing games with here in Aurora. They're always advocating with him, and they have Aurora at home. Movement that came through the city authority runs it, and it cooperates with all the area to deal with homelessness and to house people and to deal with the mobile home park issue and stuff. So I'm wondering if that wouldn't be a good connection, like housing authority EDs, and start conversation with them. how much
Absolutely.
you've done with that.
Is there a statewide housing authority coalition or organizing body?
Yeah, there is every month.
Is that Chaffa or not?
No, it's not
Okay.
an informal thing where they all meet. I can ask and who works in Lakewood Authority there, and I know they meet every month. That for somebody to go from the league to one of their meetings.
Yeah, it's the whole metro area housing authorities. Donna?
What?
It's for all the metro area?
Yeah, they're all metro area parties.
Donna,
like
I don't know if it's for everyone. Donna keeps breaking up for me and I keep missing things that you're saying. Could you put the name of that organization in the chat?
Sure. Where do I?
Or Donna, maybe if you turn off your video, sometimes that helps the audio be clearer because you are kind of skipping out.
Because I'm not hearing some of what you're saying.
Okay.
Is that? Yeah, well, I could connect. I could make a link between like this authorities have a meeting every month, the urban housing all the different counties around the Front Range meet every month, and so to link the league with them, you know, they're an extremely good resource. So if you want,
Oh, we lost you, Donna. I can't hear her. Can anyone?
No,
Okay.
Donna just joined.
Oh,
the
She's
lead
coming
with
back.
Mark.
great. We lost you there for a minute there, Donna.
oh, well, I turned off my video because I thought that would help the audio.
Yep.
Didn't.
But yeah, so all the housing authority people get to have a meeting. So if we could connect the league with them, those are really good resources and they know what's obviously going on in each of their camps. That might be a good connection for us.
Excellent. That'd be great. Could you find out the name of that group and let me know? I put my email and cell phone in the chat.
Oh, okay.
What else? I agree that that could be a great resource. What do you all feel are other next steps for this group? We obviously have the LAC working on a bunch of legislation. Is there a particular, should we be educating statewide on the mobile park issues? Should we be educating on this new grant program?
Absolutely. You know, coming from the Western Slope, I totally relate to the fact that the majority of funds oftentimes went to the more urban areas, and really it's a numbers game. So when you know, someone in the Denver area can house you know, some very large amount of folks, then it becomes valid. And so the fact that these monies are indeed available, at least temporarily, to the Western Slope and other rural areas really interests me. because that needs to happen. And I can see taking that information to the housing authority and that sort of thing, so that they know that those funds exist and feel comfortable with the timeframes that it's available, and the what the parameters are for applying and so on. And in this county, we have a lot of people developing affordable housing. Several different governments are doing that. So I could see that presentation, kind of expanding into all that. When I was part of the housing authority, about a third of my time was education, through councils, going to council and talking about what was available and what could be done and so on. So I think if that was well timed in the next little bit, and we were clear on exactly how long that big pot of money is available over here and the parameters for applying for it, it could be really useful in Gunnison County. And just another little side note is, the Federal Home Loan Bank, they give more money to affordable housing than HUD. And so it is a very big, great resource. And they have always had, Colorado would be a part of a 4-state deal. Kansas City, actually Topeka is where they meet. And they meet, I believe, once a month. And they have an affordable housing board that's specifically represented by affordable housing people in those 4 states. And they have grants and they have all kinds of stuff.
And what did you say this organization is?
Federal Home Loan Bank out of Topeka, Kansas. And Colorado is one of the, so we would be a 4-state area, like Colorado, Oklahoma, Nebraska, and Missouri, maybe. And so our Federal Home Loan Bank is in Topeka, the one that we would be applying to. But it's kind of mind blowing how much money they throw at affordable housing. And then they have, like, as I said, a very good affordable housing board that helps them understand the issues.
Okay. So what's the best way to bring this information to the people who need to hear it? I'm hearing that we should do a presentation on HB 22-1304. I'm going to depend on our LAC members to tell me the timing of that presentation, when it would be most effective, and who a potential speaker. I'm figuring the sponsoring legislators.
I would think so.
Yeah, either that or someone from DOLA or Chaffa or all of the above. The loans are probably going to be, there's allowance for third party. If I had to guess, they're going to choose Chaffa to oversee that. So, and for the grants, I don't think they've, it's up to DOLA, I think, to write the rules for that, right, Trish? So, after the bill passes, it probably will be, June, July timeframe before you know how to go about how, what the real rules might be for it.
Okay.
So we may be talking for those bills a bit down the line. The mobile home park stuff, the sooner the better, probably.
Great. Who is there one speaker or several speakers that should speak on mobile homes?
There's I mean, we could have a seminar type thing with a few folks, because there's different aspects. Of course, the representative Bosnicker, he's a freshman out of Fort Collins, but boy, is he great. He's the one carrying the big bill.
Okay.
but Representative Hooton has been very involved, as have a few others. So there's that. There's organizations like 9 to 5 Colorado and Together Colorado that have been doing organizing. There's COCOMO, which is the Colorado Coalition for Mobile or Manufactured Homeowners, that's kind of trying to be statewide as a information hub. So there's a few main players that maybe ought to be involved in something like that.
Great. Is Kokomo, can you spell how they spell Kokomo?
COCOMHO. So it's
Okay.
Colorado Coalition of Manufactured Homeowners.
Great. What are other next steps?
Well, I think it would be good if this group could meet, let's see, we're in March, so we have April, May. To me, it would be valuable for this group to meet and just carry on around the legislation and learn about what's happening with housing bills. I think an understanding of that would be a critical first step for us. And then maybe as we kind of learn about that, we'll be able to sift out where we go next. I think the other thing is, how do we generate more interest in this task force? I mean, do we have people representative of, like this bill talks about, the rural, urban? Do we have leagues across the state that we could try to pull in? I mean, I'm in the
Absolutely.
Front Range. Do we have anybody from rural
Only,
Colorado here?
only Sherry.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a gap. We need to get, people in, also in from, Pueblo, Colorado Springs, but we should get somebody in from San Luis Valley, down from the Four Corners area, Durango, Mesa. Yeah.
Starling out on the Eastern Plains. I mean,
we
yeah.
don't have any leaks on the Eastern Plains right now, sadly.
Oh, okay.
We, our league in Sterling fizzled just before I started. So I would love to get that back going, but the old 24 hours in a day, two
Right.
hands on the, so someday, but that's a big gap. The Eastern Plains are a big gap for the league. But I'm sure you all can also think that, well, with our 18 leagues representing 23 counties, I think those 23 counties are just under 90% of the state's population. So we're hitting a good part of the population, but that doesn't mean we're, we still need presence out on the Eastern Plains. But sadly, there's just not a lot of people living out there who are scrambling to join the league, likely for ideological reasons. But that's an assumption on my part. So, okay. I am going to get together with the 3 LACers and try to get this mobile home seminar going. Is there anybody else that wants to be involved in that? All right. Jill? Great. Great. Thank you. I will CC you when I just kind of send out an email to Kathy and Joe and Trish saying, okay, how's this for a kind of framework? Throw out some dates. I'd sure appreciate some help, Jill, with contacting legislators and partner organizations and things to get this seminar together. That would be great. And it tends to be pretty fun work anyway. So we will keep an eye on the granting program seminar and think about doing that in June and July. We've got to get it passed first. But do you want to put another meeting on the calendar for maybe, what's the feeling here? It kind of sounds like a month seems too long. Is that what you think? Or is a month about right?
Seems about right if we try to get some things done in between.
Okay, great.
It
So
may be,
today,
it may be too long if we want to support things around the legislation, though.
That could be,
think-
yeah.
No, yeah, that's true.
okay.
I mean,
Well,
once the long bill is passed, I think things are going to move pretty fast.
But that's going to take a good couple weeks, likely. That said, a couple weeks goes pretty fast. One thing that Laura and I will do following this meeting is set up in our in Club Express, our website platform, a forum for this group. It's actually already set up, I believe.
It's set up.
Barb, you're such a star.
I checked.
So we will make sure what a forum is basically a bulletin board group. So it allows us to share housing related documents, ideas, articles. It's just a way for this group to communicate. Is everyone okay with me adding their names to the housing forum? Or I should say, is anyone not okay with it? Okay, great. Thanks. We will add you all to this forum, and that will allow you all to post, communicate, do whatever you want. So if something big happens with legislation, LAC members, that's where you can alert us. You can also just contact me and or Laura, and we can do the alerting. So it's a good communication tool. So, but if so with that tool in mind, are we thinking that a month is okay, or do we think 3 weeks?
I'd go for 3 weeks.
Okay. So let's look at late-ish mid-April, maybe the week of the 18th of April.
Yeah, I'm kind of up in the air that week because my husband's having surgery on the 18th. So
Okay.
go ahead and I'm trying to keep my schedule pretty open. So go ahead and schedule something and I'll try to attend if I can.
And my husband's having surgery on the 15th.
Oh, Lordy.
Wow.
Bad husband week. Should we put it off
Yeah.
to the week of the 25th?
Okay.
That's fine. Mhm,
Does Tuesday at 5 work for people?
mhm.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
Tuesday, the 26th at 5 p.m.
Okay,
Yeah, I've got a hard stop at 6 that day, but yeah.
Okay. Great.
I will go ahead and set up a Zoom meeting for all of us and email it to everyone who's present in this meeting right now.
We can also post it in the forum. Woohoo.
perfect.
And
How can we
we
promote this to
suggested
other?
5 o'clock, but I was wondering 4:30 since Kathy has a hard stop that day.
At 6.
Yeah, but I was wondering if we could meet at 4:30 instead of 5.
Fine with me.
I would-
Okay. Jill, did you want to say something?
I just wondered how we could promote this and hopefully get some other people interested.
Well, we will get it in our website calendar tomorrow. That means that starting Friday, it will be included in email blasts every week. We will also put it on social media. I hope you all will hype it up, talk it up to your local league members. I will certainly do so to our board of directors. And we've got pretty good geographic diversity on our current board. Yeah, I'll try to think of other ways to reach out as well. And if you all think of any ideas, don't hesitate to give me a call or an email. Because yeah, we do need more representation on this committee. Still, for a first meeting, I'm very pleased. And I thank you for your time and energy. And especially thank you to our LAC members. You're pulling double duty here and we really appreciate it. Thank you, and thanks to everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
So see you
Thank you.
on the 26th.
Sounds good.
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks so much.
Yeah,
Bye.
thanks.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night.